So tell me a little bit about the pick that President-elect Donald Trump made.
Yeah, so Chris Wright is a natural gas executive. He started Liberty, I believe, in 2011. They're one of the largest natural gas companies in the United States, well-versed in the oil and gas industry, long-term executive, MIT background in engineering, so he knows the science side of all this as well. Seems to be a very highly competent professional from everything I can tell.
So you think this is a great pick for us, and you think any impacts we'll see?
I'm in favor of it overall. I'm a big advocate of an all-of-above energy approach that uses as many different sources as possible because of the necessity of what energy offers people in their lives. I certainly think that his advocacy for more access to a larger range of energy sources is well supported by all the science in the background that we see in the literature. I think for San Antonio in particular, we've got a couple of advantages we could see. The headline being very likely to see cheaper energy. That is an almost inevitable outcome if the policies that they're proposing are put into place. Obviously, a bunch of other things change in the world as well, so there might be conflicting forces, but with this policy and this appointment in itself, I would certainly expect it to put downward pressure on prices. More broadly, we have very easy access to the Eagle Ford Shale, that shale being nearby, and Wright being a big advocate of natural gas and liquefied natural gas in particular. I anticipate a lot easier access for drilling permits, which should allow more opportunities for growth, development, and new jobs.
So that leads me into my next question about drilling and fracking, etc. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, there's no perfect technology. There's trade-offs in everything we do. I think the benefits that we get from natural gas, and in particular the degree to which it lets us transition away from coal, is an unequivocally good step. I certainly understand concerns of activists of leaks and groundwater contamination and those things. I would not expect new policies in this administration to minimize the likelihood of pollution and direct groundwater contamination. I think that's a very unlikely concern. I think more of the deregulation pullback that's discussed is about the processing time for permits and the various bureaucratic steps that someone has to go through in order to get those permits approved, even when those steps don't necessarily improve the safety of the overall process.
Now tell me, I believe we had 3 earthquakes. Could this be, all tied together?
I can't say no with definitive certainty, but I can't say yes by the same one. It's something like that is, there's too many unknowns to assign it to the blame of any one thing, at least at this point. 3 data points is not enough to be a sufficient sample. So if we continue seeing something like that long term for the next decade, then yeah, there might be more evidence of it. But shorter term like this, it's too early to assign any sort of blame for that on fracking.
So you definitely think this is a great pick, and some of the impacts that we will we see them immediately, or do you think it'll take some time?
No, it's probably going to be a little bit of lag time. There might be some short-term benefit of speculators assuming that prices will go down in the future, which will allow them to lower them today. But permitting still has a multi-year time horizon to turn around for new drilling, new wells, which means this is probably going to take a couple of years before we see the full impact of it in the markets.
Is there any environmental concerns?
There certainly is. I mean, anytime we're talking about combustible fossil fuels, there is an environmental component that we need to be aware of. I guess I'd say it this way. If we're thinking about the environmental landscape, and in particular climate change is the big concern people have, I think the biggest risk to climate change right now is China selling large-scale coal to developing countries around the world. I think liquefied natural gas is a vastly superior alternative to those coal shipments abroad. So if we're asking what can we do to minimize climate change coming from fossil fuels in the most immediate term, my answer is liquefied natural gas is a superior alternative to what the other major economic player in the world is actively pushing in developing nations. So I would much prefer that we drill natural gas and create LNG here, which has significantly lower emission consequences than the alternatives that are available to low-income countries.
Are we going more towards energy dominance?
Dominance isn't the right word. It's too big of a landscape. I think this administration will push us in a direction of more say within the global energy markets, but dominance is not correct. There are too many players that still have a say within this marketplace.
Is there anything else I'm leaving out that you want to add into the story that you think is beneficial?
I'm sure you have enough to work with. Yeah, I'll give my support that I think it's a good pick. Certainly I understand the concerns of climate activists of wanting to make sure that we minimize any fossil fuel burning that we do. I'm a big advocate, though, that I think when we're thinking about the consideration of potentially saving people's lives 50 years in the future versus actively killing people today because we're cutting off their access to critical energy around the world, that's a difficult selling point for me to make. I've seen estimates that there are up to 2 million people who die every year, specifically from smoke inhalation, because they're relying on biofuels to heat their homes. That is the burning of sticks, of leaves, of dung, to give themselves the minimum ability to cook their food and heat their homes. And when we think about the immediate short-term cost of that many people losing their lives today, it's difficult for me to say that we're trying to protect 100 years down the road when we don't know what sort of technological advancements we'll have to offset those future challenges. So I'm a big advocate of trying to get low-cost energy, especially to developing economies around the world, as we try to save more lives today.